I never thought I'd hear my daughter say it, but in the middle of her wedding, she looked me straight in the eyes and shouted, "You're not welcome here." The music stopped. Every guest froze, and all I could think was, after everything I gave her, how did we end up here? The ceremony was supposed to be perfect. The sun was setting over Charleston Harbor, painting the sky a warm orange glow. White chairs lined up on the lawn of the Caldwell family estate. Guests in pastel suits and elegant dresses whispered about the wealth on display. Ethan Caldwell's family had spared no expense. But no one was looking at the flowers, the chandeliers, or even the bride. All eyes turned toward me, the father who dared to show up. I adjusted my navy blazer, the same one I'd worn to Claire's graduation, the same one her mother once said made me look like a man who still had fight left in him. My steps were steady, but inside, my chest pounded. I was here to watch my daughter walk down the aisle. That's all I wanted. But before I could even reach my seat, Claire spun on her heels. Her white gown shimmered under the lights, her veil trembling as she raised her hand, pointing directly at me. "You're not welcome here." Her voice sliced through the soft music. Guests gasped, fanning themselves with their programs. Even the violinist stopped mid-note. Ethan, her groom, stiffened beside her, glancing between us as if he'd walked into a storm he hadn't been warned about. I swallowed hard, but I didn't move. The whispers started. "Is that her father? What's going on? Why would she say that?" A hush fell again when I finally spoke. "Claire?" My voice was calm, but it carried through the rows. "After everything I gave up for you, after everything I protected you from, do you really want me to leave?" The silence was heavy. Guests leaned forward, waiting for her response. Claire's face flushed red. "Don't start this. Not here. Not today." Her words weren't just a rejection. They were fear. I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't angry that I was there. She was terrified of what I might say. That's when I realized I still held power. I glanced around the crowd. Bankers, politicians, old Charleston money. People who valued their image more than their conscience. They were expecting me to bow my head, apologize, and walk away. But I didn't raise my daughter to hide from the truth. And even if she hated me, I wasn't going to hide now. I took another step forward. "You want me to go because you're afraid. Afraid these people will hear what you've been keeping from them. Afraid that your life isn't as perfect as it looks in that dress?" Gasps rippled through the rows. Ethan's mother pressed a hand against her pearls. The photographer lowered his camera, unsure if this was part of the event or the start of a scandal. Claire's hand trembled against her bouquet. "Stop it," she whispered, almost begging. "You don't know what you're doing." But she was wrong. I knew exactly what I was doing. I wasn't here to ruin her wedding. I was here because the truth had been rotting inside me for years, and now it was eating its way out. I turned to the guests. "You all see a happy bride, a proud family, and a future built on love. But what you don't see, what you've never been told, is what it cost to get here." The whispers grew louder. Ethan stepped closer to Claire, his jaw tight. "Dad, please," he muttered, unsure whether he was pleading with me or trying to calm her. Claire shook her head violently. "Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about." But her voice cracked, and the more she tried to silence me, the more people doubted her. I raised my hand. "Claire, I kept quiet for years. I stayed out of your way. But standing here, watching you lie to the man you're about to marry, to his family, to all these people, I can't do it anymore." The air shifted. You could feel the tension press against your chest.
The minister looked confused, clutching his Bible. The bridesmaids shifted nervously, their forced smiles breaking. I leaned forward, my words sharper. You told them stories about who you are, where you've been, what you've done. But you forgot one thing, Claire. The truth doesn't disappear just because you bury it. It always comes back. Her bouquet slipped from her hands, roses scattering across the floor. Her veil shook as she whispered, "Don't." But her whisper was too late.
Guests turned toward me, hungry for the rest. Even Ethan's father, stern, broad-shouldered, a man used to controlling rooms, sat frozen, waiting to hear what I'd reveal. I looked at my daughter one last time, hoping she'd confess herself. But her silence gave me my answer. So I said it. Claire, if you want me gone, I'll go. But before I leave, I'll tell them exactly why you don't want me here. I'll tell them about the summer you said you were in Italy, about the man you were really with, about the money that didn't belong to you. A collective gasp ripped through the crowd. Claire's knees buckled. Ethan grabbed her arm to steady her, his face pale. What is he talking about? Her lips quivered, but no words came out. And at that moment, when everyone's eyes locked on her, waiting for an explanation, I knew I had shattered the image she'd worked so hard to protect. The minister cleared his throat, trying to regain control. Perhaps we should, but no one was listening anymore. The ceremony was over, long before vows were ever exchanged. I stepped back, my eyes never leaving Claire. You told me I wasn't welcome, but maybe it's the truth that isn't welcome here. A pin could have dropped, and it would have sounded like thunder. Should a father stay silent at his daughter's wedding, or speak when the truth could destroy everything? What would you do in my place? Subscribe, like, and share if you want to know the truth I exposed that day. The room was still buzzing from my words. Claire's bouquet lay scattered across the floor, and guests stared at her with wide eyes. But as I stood there, watching my daughter tremble in her wedding dress, my mind slipped back. Years before Charleston, before Ethan Caldwell, before this night where the truth finally clawed its way to the surface. It all started with a promise I made at a hospital bedside. When Claire's mother passed, she was only 13. The machines had gone quiet, and I was left holding my daughter's hand, swearing I would do whatever it took to give her the life her mother dreamed of. Back then, I wasn't a man with much. Just calloused hands, a half-finished carpentry shop in Asheville, and a heart full of worry. But I worked, sunrise to sundown, taking every job I could, fixing kitchens, building porches, restoring old homes. Neighbors would shake their heads at how tired I looked, but they never saw what I saw. Claire at the kitchen table, scribbling in her notebooks, dreaming of something bigger. That was all I needed to keep going. I missed birthdays. I missed nights at home. But when Duke University sent her acceptance letter, I cried like a child. My sacrifice had meant something. And when I hugged her goodbye that first semester, I thought, maybe I'd finally done enough. But college didn't bring us closer. The phone calls grew shorter. Holidays were spent with excuses. Dad, I can't make it home, I'm busy, or I'll visit next time, I promise. At first, I told myself it was normal. Kids grow up, they find their own world. But something changed. The summer, she said she'd be studying abroad in Italy. She sent postcards with pictures of Roman streets and Tuscan hillsides, writing about classes and late nights at cafes.
I pinned each card to the fridge, proud that my little girl was out there living a dream I never could. But pride turned into doubt the day I opened the mailbox and found one envelope with no foreign stamp at all. It was mailed from Atlanta, Georgia.
At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she mailed it before she left. Maybe she forgot. But then came the second, the third, all with U.S. postmarks. That's when I called her. "Claire," I asked, keeping my voice steady, "how's Italy? You've been quiet lately." She hesitated, just for a breath. Then she laughed nervously. "Dad, it's wonderful. Busy, you know how it is. Don't worry about me." But I did worry. That hesitation told me everything. A month later, my suspicions were confirmed. I got a call from an old friend in Atlanta, a contractor I'd once done business with. He said, "Donovan, I saw Claire today. She was walking with a man near Peachtree Street. Looked serious. Didn't know she was back from Europe." My heart sank. Claire wasn't in Italy. She wasn't in classrooms or cafes. She was here in the States, building a life I knew nothing about. And worse, she had lied to my face. At the wedding, standing before that silent crowd, those memories burned in me. I turned to Claire, my voice low but sharp. "You told them you studied abroad, that you built your future with hard work and honesty. But I know the truth. You weren't in Italy, Claire. You were in Atlanta." The whispers turned into gasps. Ethan's head snapped toward her. "Atlanta? What's he talking about?" Her lips parted, but no answer came. She looked trapped, like a bird slamming against a window it couldn't escape through. I pressed on. "And the man you were with, he wasn't just a friend. He wasn't just some study partner. You told me one story, Claire, but you lived another." Her hands shook. The guests leaned in, curiosity mixed with judgment. In that moment, the first seed of betrayal cracked open for everyone to see. The daughter I had given everything for, the girl I raised alone after her mother's death, the woman standing before Charleston's elite in her white gown, had built her new life on a lie. I wasn't sure whether the weight in my chest was anger or heartbreak, but I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning, because the man in Atlanta wasn't just anybody, and the lies she told to cover him up would drag us both into something far bigger than a wedding scandal.
The crowd was restless now. Guests shifted in their seats, whispers bouncing from row to row like sparks waiting for a flame. Claire's lie about Italy was out in the open, but I knew words weren't enough. She could deny, twist, and spin the story. I needed proof, something she couldn't run from. And I had it. I reached into the inside pocket of my blazer. My fingers brushed against the worn leather of my wallet, the same one I'd carried for 20 years. Inside, tucked carefully between old receipts and a faded photo of Claire as a child, was the image that had haunted me since 2018. I pulled it out slowly, holding it up so the front rows could see. "Do you remember this day, Claire?" My voice carried across the silent ballroom. Her eyes widened, her face drained of color. She knew exactly what I was holding. I turned the photo toward the guests. "This was taken in Atlanta, 2018. Not Rome, not Florence, not anywhere near Italy.
The photo was clear. Claire standing outside a cafe on Peachtree Street, her arm linked with a man in a gray suit. His face was angled just enough to be recognized. David Mercer. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The name alone stirred unease among the older guests. A few of the businessmen shifted uncomfortably, whispering to their wives. Ethan's father, Richard Caldwell, narrowed his eyes. He knew the name. Everyone in finance circles did.
Mercer was a rising star once, a consultant with access to powerful networks. But his sudden disappearance had been the talk of Wall Street. Rumors of fraud, illegal transfers, offshore accounts, then nothing. He vanished like smoke. And here was my daughter, hand in hand, with him. Ethan turned to Claire, his voice sharp. "Claire, what is this? Who is that man?" She stammered, shaking her head violently. "It's not what it looks like. I can explain." But her denial sounded hollow. I stepped forward. "Explain it to him, then. Tell your fiancé why you spent that summer in Atlanta with David Mercer. Tell him why money from Mercer's accounts ended up wired through mine without my knowledge." The room erupted. Guests gasped louder, fanning themselves, clutching pearls, whispering furiously. Ethan's face twisted with disbelief. "What? Money? Claire, is this true?" Tears welled in her eyes. "No, I swear I didn't. Dad, please stop." But I wasn't done. I reached into my pocket again and pulled out a folded document. "If you think I came here with just a story and a photo, you're wrong. This is a subpoena from federal court. It names David Mercer. It names the shell companies, and it shows transfers that went through accounts in my name." The minister stepped back, clutching his Bible tighter. The crowd leaned in, stunned into silence. I held up the document, my voice steady. "For years, I kept this hidden, to protect you, Claire, to protect your future. But standing here tonight, watching you build a marriage on lies, I can't protect you anymore." Claire dropped to her knees, her veil falling forward, her hands pressed against the floor as she sobbed. "Please, Dad, don't do this. Not here. Not like this." Her voice was broken, desperate. The same little girl who once begged me not to work late, not to miss her dance recitals, was now begging me to keep her darkest secret buried.
My chest ached. Part of me wanted to scoop her up, tell her I'd fix everything, that no one needed to know. But the other part, the father who raised her alone, who built her future with his bare hands, knew this was the moment the truth had to be spoken. Because family loyalty had a price, and I had already paid too much. I lifted the photo higher. "You want me gone, Claire? Fine. But before I walk out those doors, everyone here deserves to know who they're trusting their money, their reputation, and their name with. They deserve to know that your hands aren't clean." Her sobs echoed through the room. Ethan stood frozen, torn between the woman he loved and the evidence in front of him. The guests were speechless, some shaking their heads, others already whispering about the scandal that would dominate Charleston by morning. And I stood there, broken but resolute, holding up the proof that had been burning in my pocket for years. Should family loyalty silence the truth, or should the truth always come first, no matter the cost? Please tell me in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share if you think I made the right choice by speaking up.
The ballroom had turned into a courtroom. The photo, the subpoena, the whispers circling like vultures. Claire was on her knees, pleading for me to stop. Her wedding gown, once spotless, was now wrinkled from her trembling hands pressing against the floor. "Please, Dad," she sobbed, "don't take everything from me." The silence was suffocating. Guests stared, waiting for the final blow.
Ethan hovered above her, his face pale, torn between rage and disbelief. And then, a voice cut through the air, cold, steady, and unforgettable. "Donovan doesn't need to take anything from you, Claire. You gave it all away the moment you chose me." Gasps shot through the crowd as the ballroom doors creaked open. A man stepped inside, his presence enough to silence every whisper at once. Tall, sharp suit, a scar running across his jaw. His eyes scanned the room like a predator assessing prey. David Mercer, the man who was supposed to be gone, the man whose name had haunted my accounts and my sleepless nights. And now, here he was, in the flesh, alive, walking straight into my daughter's wedding. Claire's scream pierced the air. "No, you're not supposed to be here!" Her voice wasn't fear of a stranger. It was recognition, intimacy, guilt. Ethan's head whipped toward her. "You know him?" Claire froze, unable to answer.
Mercer smiled, adjusting his cufflinks as he strolled toward the altar. "Of course she knows me. We've known each other far longer than you, Ethan. Long enough for her to trust me with secrets she couldn't even tell her father." The crowd murmured. Guests leaned forward, desperate to catch every word. I clenched my fists, my voice steady. "Mercer, you should have stayed gone." He smirked. "And miss this show? No, Donovan. I couldn't resist. After all, you're standing there pretending to be the righteous father when we both know you're just as guilty as she is." My jaw tightened. "What are you talking about?" That's when he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. With a flick of his thumb, the ballroom filled with the crackle of an audio recording. Claire's voice echoed through the speakers, trembling but unmistakable. "He'll take the fall. My dad doesn't even know the accounts are in his name. If they ever come asking questions, he'll look guilty. I'll be safe." The guests gasped in horror. Ethan's face drained of color. He stepped back from his bride, his hand slipping from hers like she was poison. Claire shook her head violently. "No, it's not what it sounds like." But Mercer wasn't done. He clicked again, and another recording played. "As long as my father stays quiet, we're untouchable. He'll never betray me. He's too loyal, too blind." The room turned on her. Bridesmaids exchanged horrified glances. Ethan's parents sat stiff, fury etched across their faces. And Ethan? His eyes filled with something worse than anger. Disgust. He whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You used your father as a shield." Claire reached for him, sobbing, "Ethan, please, you have to believe me. I didn't mean—" He recoiled, stepping out of her reach. "You didn't mean it? Claire, he built your entire life. He sacrificed everything for you. And this is what you gave him in return?" The weight of her betrayal hit me harder than any fist ever could. All those nights in the shop, every dollar saved, every dream I had for her, it had all been twisted into a weapon. Not by strangers, but by my own daughter. And Mercer knew it. He leaned toward me, his smile like a knife. "See, Donovan, you thought you were the only one with a story to tell tonight. But I hold the truth she never wanted you to find out. You raised her to be strong, and she chose me." I wanted to strike him down right there, but the eyes of every guest pinned me in place. Claire collapsed against the floor, sobbing, mascara streaking down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I just wanted a life. I just wanted more." Mercer crouched beside her, his voice soft but venomous. "And you had it, until he came here. Your father couldn't leave the past alone. He couldn't stop meddling. And now, everything falls apart."
She shoved him away, screaming, "You ruined me!" But the truth was clear to everyone. She had ruined herself long before this night. Ethan stepped back toward the altar, his voice cold. "This wedding is over." Claire reached for him, desperate. "No, Ethan, please, I love you." But he wouldn't even look at her. His love had died the moment those recordings played. And I stood there torn apart, realizing I wasn't just fighting Mercer. I was fighting the part of my daughter that had chosen him over me. What would you do if the ghost of your past walked into your daughter's wedding? Subscribe, like, and share if you want to know what Mercer demanded next.
The ballroom was no longer a place of celebration. The flowers, the chandeliers, the carefully set tables, they were all just silent witnesses to a family being torn apart. Ethan had walked away from the altar, his parents whispering in fury behind him. Claire lay on the floor in her wedding dress, her cries echoing against the marble walls. And Mercer stood tall, feeding off the chaos he had unleashed. He turned his gaze toward me, his smirk sharp enough to cut glass. "You thought tonight was about her lies, Donovan. But this isn't just about Claire. This is about you." The guests tensed. Every head swiveled in my direction. I narrowed my eyes. "What do you mean?" Mercer slipped a hand inside his jacket and pulled out a slim black folder. He held it up like a prize. "You still have them, don't you? The files, the names, the evidence that could bring down half the people in this state." The room erupted with whispers. Files, names, evidence. I felt the blood drain from my face. Claire looked up at me through swollen eyes, panic flashing across her face. "Dad, what is he talking about?" Mercer chuckled. "She doesn't know? Of course she doesn't, because Donovan Masters plays the noble father in public, but in private, he's been sitting on documents that could topple CEOs, politicians, and more. Isn't that right, Donovan?" Gasps filled the room. People leaned closer, desperate for answers. I clenched my jaw, my chest heavy. Yes, the files exist. The crowd froze. Claire's sobs stopped. Ethan's parents stiffened. Even Ethan himself turned back, glaring at me with fresh suspicion. I raised my voice, steady and sharp. "I never kept them for profit. I never used them to hurt anyone. I kept them because people like Mercer can't be trusted. Those files were my shield, not my weapon." But Mercer wasn't about to let me take the moral high ground.
He sneered. "A shield? Don't lie to them. You sat on those files for years. You could have gone to the press, to the police, but you didn't. Why? Because deep down, you liked having leverage. You liked the power." Claire staggered to her feet, pointing at me, her voice trembling. "Is that true? You had secrets this whole time, and you never told me?" I met her tearful eyes, my heart breaking. "I was protecting you, Claire. Protecting us. The moment those files see daylight, Mercer isn't the only one who suffers. They'll come after anyone connected to me. That means you." Her lips quivered, torn between rage and fear. Mercer stepped closer, his voice rising. "Enough of this fatherly sacrifice act. The files. I want them back. Tonight." The guests gasped again, the weight of his demand crashing over the room. I stood firm, my voice low. "Why now, Mercer? Why show up at this wedding? You had years to come from me." His eyes glinted, cruel and calculating. "Because I don't need you anymore. I need those files. And if you think you can stall me..."
He held up his phone, waving it slowly for everyone to see. "I've already prepared the recordings to go live online. One click, and the world hears every word Claire said about framing her father, every bank transaction tied to you, every account, every lie, all of it." The room erupted. Some guests stood, ready to leave, but others stayed frozen, captivated by the storm unfolding before them. Claire screamed, rushing toward Mercer. "Stop it! Please! You can't do this!" He shoved her aside with ease, his eyes locked on me. "The bargain is simple, Donovan. The files for your daughter's future. Refuse me, and she's finished. The world will know who she really is, and you'll both burn together." The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Every eye bore into me, judging, waiting, daring me to choose. Should I hand over the only protection I'd held on to all these years, or should I let my daughter's betrayal be broadcast to the entire world?
Claire clutched my arm, sobbing into my sleeve. "Dad, please. Please give him what he wants. I can't lose everything. Not like this." Her words sliced deeper than any blade. Because even now, after everything she had done, I couldn't turn my heart against her. But I couldn't ignore the truth either. She had betrayed me. She had chosen Mercer once. She had built her life on lies. Now I was supposed to decide whether to save her from the fire or let her feel the flames she lit herself. I lifted my eyes to Mercer, my voice cold. "You've mistaken me for a man who bargains. If I give you those files, what's to stop you from using them again tomorrow? You've already proven you can't be trusted." Mercer smirked, tapping his phone. "Trust isn't the issue. Survival is. And right now, Donovan, yours and hers depends on how fast you cooperate." The guests leaned forward, breaths held, hearts racing. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about the files. It wasn't even about Claire. It was about me, about the man I had become and the father I still wanted to be. Should a father protect his daughter even if she betrayed him? What should I have done? Stand by her or walk away? Please let me know in the comments.
The ballroom was still trembling from Mercer's ultimatum. His phone hovered in the air like a weapon, one click away from destroying Claire, from destroying me. Guests shifted nervously, whispering, some edging toward the exits, unsure if they should even stay. The night had transformed into a public battlefield of secrets. Mercer's grin widened. "Tick-tock, Donovan. The world doesn't wait forever. The files, or everything goes public." I locked eyes with him, feeling my pulse thunder in my ears. My choices had narrowed to two equally impossible doors. Hand him the files and unleash chaos, or refuse and let my daughter be ruined forever. And just as my lips parted to respond, another voice cut through the tension. "No need to choose, Mr. Masters. We'll take it from here." The room fell silent. Heads turned toward the back of the hall. A man in a navy suit stepped forward from the crowd, his expression calm but commanding. He slid an ID from his pocket, holding it high. "Agent Lucas Hayes, FBI." The crowd gasped, ripples of shock spreading faster than fire. I froze, my chest tightening. FBI, here, at Claire's wedding. Mercer's smirk faltered. "You've got to be kidding me." But Hayes wasn't joking. He nodded toward two other men in plain clothes who quickly emerged from opposite corners of the room. Their movements were sharp, deliberate. "David Mercer," Hayes announced, his voice carrying through the hall. "You are under arrest for fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy."
The ballroom erupted. Guests screamed, gasped, or scrambled for their phones. Mercer backed up, his bravado cracking. "You've got nothing on me." Hayes raised a brow. "Really? Then perhaps you shouldn't have played those recordings in a room full of witnesses. It made our job very easy tonight.
Before Mercer could argue, the agents closed in, snapping handcuffs around his wrists. He cursed, his voice rising above the chaos. "Donovan, don't think this ends here. They'll bury you too." And that's when Hayes turned his gaze on me. "Donovan Masters," he said firmly, "you're coming with us as well." The room went still again. Claire's head shot up, panic flashing in her eyes. "No, what are you talking about? He didn't do anything." Hayes shook his head, his tone measured. "Mr. Masters withheld federal evidence. Those files he admitted to having? He's been sitting on them for years. That makes him complicit." The words hit like a hammer. The crowd gasped. Friends, neighbors, business acquaintances, people I'd known for decades, now staring at me like I was a stranger. Claire stumbled toward me, gripping my arm with trembling hands. "Dad, no! Please, you can't take him. He's not like Mercer. He's not." It was the first time all night she had defended me. The daughter who had cast me aside at the start of her wedding was now clinging to me like I was her only anchor. Her voice cracked as she pleaded with the agent. "You don't understand. He only kept those files to protect us. He's not the villain here." Tears blurred her mascara again, but this time they weren't for her reputation. They were for me. Agent Hayes's eyes softened, but his voice remained steady. "I believe your father did what he thought was right, but the law doesn't care about intentions. He withheld evidence, and now he has to answer for it." The agents stepped closer.
I looked at Claire, my daughter, broken, terrified. For the first time, she wasn't pushing me away. She wasn't choosing Mercer or Ethan or anyone else. She was choosing me. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I lifted my hands, not to resist, but to bargain. "I'll come with you. I'll give you everything, the files, the names, the evidence, but only if you guarantee my daughter's safety. She can't be punished for my choices." Hayes studied me for a long moment, then gave a single nod. "Your cooperation will go a long way, Mr. Masters. But understand, this means everything comes out. No more secrets." I glanced back at Claire. Her grip tightened on my sleeve, her eyes wet with tears. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I should never have—" I silenced her with a gentle touch against her cheek. "Claire, don't waste tonight on regret. Just learn from it. Live better than I did." Her sob broke my heart. She clung to me as the agents placed cuffs around my wrists. The same crowd that had once celebrated her wedding now watched in stunned silence as a father was led away. Mercer shouted over the commotion, his voice bitter as the agents dragged me past me. "They'll chew you up, Donovan. You think you're saving her? You're just digging your own grave." I ignored him. My eyes were fixed only on Claire, her trembling figure, her desperate sobs, her arms outstretched toward me. The daughter who had once told me I wasn't welcome was now begging them not to take me away. And for the first time in years, I felt the fragile bond between us flicker back to life. Not healed, not whole, but alive. Was I wrong to hold back the evidence, or was it the only way I could survive? Subscribe, like, and share to see how story ends.
The night air hit me like a slap. The ballroom doors slammed shut behind us, cutting off the chaos inside. The music had died long ago. The wedding decorations meant nothing now. Just empty symbols of a union that had dissolved before it even began. Two agents gripped my arms, guiding me down the steps toward the waiting black SUV. My wrists were cuffed, but my head was high. I'd faced worse storms than this. Yet as I walked,
I couldn't ignore the weight pressing on me, the wreckage of what should have been the happiest night of my daughter's life. Now it was ashes. Claire's wedding was destroyed. The vows never spoken, the marriage canceled before it began. Ethan stood inside, his love shattered, his trust gone. The guests would carry home nothing but whispers and rumors, spreading our downfall through every corner of Charleston by sunrise. And Claire, my Claire. She stood at the doorway, her gown torn and stained, her eyes red and swollen. No bouquet in her hands, no smile on her face, just a look of pure devastation. She called my name, her voice breaking. "Dad!" The agents tightened their grip, but I turned enough to see her, her hands clutching the frame of the door as if letting go would mean losing me forever. In that moment, time slowed. Every sacrifice I had made flashed in my mind. The years building the carpentry business in Asheville, the nights spent working late just to afford Duke University tuition, the pride I felt when she first walked across that campus, the hope I carried when I thought she was safe, secure, loved. And now here we are. Her marriage was destroyed, my freedom is gone. All because of secrets I thought I could control. The SUV door loomed ahead. One of the agents swung it open.
But before they shoved me inside, I spoke. Not to them, to her. "Claire, listen to me." Her tear-streaked face lifted, desperate for my words. "The files, they're still my leverage. Inside are names that could bury half the people who run this state. Politicians, bankers, developers, the kind of men who ruin lives and walk free." Her eyes widened, her breath caught. She finally understood the scale of what I'd carried all these years. I kept them to protect us, and now those same files might be the only thing standing between you and destruction. The agents pulled at my arms, but I resisted for just a moment longer. "Don't be afraid," I told her. "No matter what they say, you are my daughter, and I will protect you even if it costs me everything." Her sobs broke the night as she stumbled forward, her hands outstretched. The agents blocked her path, but her eyes locked with mine, full of something I thought I'd never see again. Not betrayal, not distance. Love. Raw, painful, regretful love. The agents forced me into the SUV. The door slammed shut with a hollow thud. As the engine roared to life, I caught one last glimpse of her through the tinted glass. She was still there at the doorway, clutching her dress, her body trembling. And for the first time all night, she wasn't turning away from me. She wasn't pointing her finger or casting me aside. She was watching me go, her heart breaking in sync with mine. The city lights blurred as the SUV pulled away. I leaned back, the cuffs biting into my wrists, and let the thoughts claw at me.
The FBI had Mercer. They had me. But the truth was, they didn't have everything. The files still existed, hidden, locked away where only I could reach them. Inside were names that could burn empires to the ground. I had always told myself they were a shield, but now, staring out at the dark horizon, I realized the danger wasn't just in keeping them. The real danger might come the moment I let them go. Would handing them over truly protect Claire, or would it paint a target on both our backs, making us enemies of men far more dangerous than David Mercer? The agents beside me said nothing, but in my mind, the question screamed louder than the engine. Maybe keeping secrets had doomed me, but giving them away could doom us both. And that was the choice that awaited me, one final reckoning that no courtroom or wedding could prepare me for. The SUV disappeared into the Charleston night, carrying me away from my daughter, my freedom, and everything I had built. But it didn't carry away my resolve. I still had a weapon, one last card to play, and when the time came, I would decide whether to use it or destroy it forever. Sometimes, the only thing more dangerous than keeping a secret is letting it go. What would you do with files that could destroy the powerful? Subscribe, like, and share, because I will come back to tell you what happened at the end.